Once you sign in to answer this, you'll come to a screen like this. You have your quick Q&A model here and the full review model here. Within the full review, it'll give you a much more comprehensive answer and be able to create literature reviews, research proposals, whereas quick Q&A is great for citation-backed answers to research questions that you may have, such as finding research gaps. I highly recommend that you start down here with Prompt Helper. You can find out all the different features the AnswerThis has, where you could generate a research outline, you could generate a research proposal, find research gaps, perform quantitative analysis, and everything we need here. So for now, I'm going to say write a literature review on. Here, I've just said how advanced will AI models get. We can simply enter, and there we go. Our prompt is ready to go. Now, I'm going to select full review for my model to create a full literature review. And next, we can press this button here to access more filters. From here, we can add more sections to our literature review. We can go all the way up to 10 if we need. We can also create subsections. And very interestingly, if you want to create specific sections and have AnswerThis cover different topics, you can also list what topics you want covered here as well. Next, we get to adjust the filters for our papers. First thing we can do is adjust the minimum amount of citations that is included within the research paper that AnswerThis pulls. We can also adjust for journal quality. If we want really high journals, we can do Q1. If we want to just include all of them, we can also slide it all the way to the right here as well. Next, we get to pick our publication types. If we want just journal articles, we can select just that, or we can do preprints, book and chapters, or if we really want to, we can select all of them. And next, we go down to our research database. Again, we have different options: Semantic Scholar, OpenAlex, PubMed, which is great for medical, and ArcSiv. We can also select all of them if we want as well. And here we can also include web searches if we wish. We can filter this by government or EDU, and we can also include patents as well. Additionally, we also have a library option. Now, AnswerThis has a library where you can enter sources of your own from Zotero, Mendeley, BibTeX that you may have, or from papers within AnswerThis. We go through the library in a different section, but for now, let's continue. The last thing that we can do is change the publication date. We can set it to, say, 2020 if we want recent papers, or if we want to find those key papers that might have been made in 1950s or 60s, we can also select an end date here as well. But for now, I'm just going to submit search. And as we can see, just like that, AnswerThis has produced an entire literature review and has broken it down into sections. We can read it through here. It gives us an introduction. As you can see, it's given us models like GPT-4, PaLM 2. If we keep on scrolling down, we also see an entire table. AnswerThis produces this in a lot of literature reviews. Super handy when you're trying to find specific details related to specific events or people. And here we can keep on reading methodology. And if we scroll down to the bottom, we can see that 34 sources were used. We have our little bibliography down at the bottom here where we can see all our citations. We can also change our citation style to 2,600 plus citations by pressing this button at the bottom. We can also do this by clicking on the right here, but we can change it to APA. And as you can see, all the citations have updated. Now, say we're reading through this and I'm just reading, I'm saying integration of AI with emerging technologies, including blockchain, internet of a lot of things. And I'm like, wow, this sentence is very handy. First thing I can do is I can highlight this, add it to the notebook. We'll go into a little bit more of what this means, but we'll add it, we'll save it to a notebook like this where we can keep all our valuable information. And if we click on the citation, it'll bring us right down to the citation that was used. We can read the authors, see the number of citations that were used, there's 32 here, when it was made, and we can also save this to a library. We can create a new one by saying create new project if you don't have a library yet, or you can select one of the previous libraries that you've made here. So I can save it to my Zotero library if I wish, just like that. On the left-hand side, we also see this option. If we click it, it will full screen our literature review. So it's a little bit easier on the eyes, and for things like the table, we don't have to scroll here. And if we scroll to the very bottom, we will also see our papers section in a table format. From here, we can see our sources in this column table-like format, where we have the source information on the left, with the abstract of the source in the middle, and then on the right, we can also add columns. So say we find a paper that we like we've seen earlier, and we wanted to find research gaps that that paper identified within our space, we can simply go here, press research gaps, and any of these other options that we can see here. Additionally, If none of the options like methodology, limitations are good for you, you can also type in your own prompt here as well. And just like that, you can see the research gaps has now been made into this new column. We can keep on reading. We can see the different research gaps that exist within these papers. And if we scroll to the very top, we can actually export this into a CSV, which will maintain the columns as well as break down authors, citations, and a lot of other valuable information that we'd like to keep. We can also select different papers that we like. We can export them into our Zotero. We can also do that to our Mendeley, as well as export into a bid text. Talking about sources, we can actually select multiple of these and do all the options, which I had said before. And if we scroll to the very top, we can save this directly to our library. We can also add these to the notebook that we had made earlier. As you can see, it'll look like this in a notebook. And if we go back, we can also filter these papers based on the amount of citations that they use or when they were published, as well as keywords that were mentioned in the abstract. A great way to adjust our tables to the exact papers that we want. So we can just put in 2020 here. And if I scroll down, click apply, now we only have papers from 2020 and beyond. And the special thing about this is if we have all the papers that we need within this table, we can then go to add the next step and create a new table with just these papers. We'll go into more about what we can do with the add next step on the next section of these tutorials, but it's a handy thing to do. The final things I want to show you here is the ability to sort the table by A to Z. We can also do most citations or publication date if we wish. And on the right hand side, we have this handy navigation where we can jump up and down between the different material that we have within this canvas. From here, once we're familiar with our literature review and the papers that were used, we can now use the next step option. And the first thing that we want to do that we did last time was create a filter to get down the exact papers that we need from this paper table. And now we can select all and create a new table. When we do this, we'll be scroll down to a new table with only those filters papers that we had. We can also select the exact papers that we want to make a new table out of and do next step in the same way. But this is one of my personal favorite ways to do it. Once we have all the papers that we see as relevant, we can actually extract even more data and more specifically macro data about the research field itself. So if we select all, go to next step and select bibliometric analysis, we'll be greeted with loads of graphs and word maps just like this. It'll show publications by year, citations by year, combined publications and citations. Great way to see the trends of research which are made. Of course, we did filter it down last time to papers that went from 2023 and beyond, which is why the graphs look like this. But one of my favorite graphs here is the citation impact graph. And if you have this to a wider year range, you can see when key papers were made and where everyone's citing sources from. So a great way to find key papers within your space. And if we scroll on down to the bottom, we can see the top terms that were used in these papers, the top authors within our research space, and the top authors in terms of impact within the research space as well. Additionally, if we see the papers that we like, such as this one, and we can also do multiple if we wish, we can select both of these papers and then press chat with papers. And it'll bring us down to an interface like this, where we have the papers on the left hand side and AnswerThis AI bot on the right hand side. And from here, we can flick through both of our papers that we have by pressing both of these options. We can scroll on down, read some of the sources, and then ask questions such as, what were some research gaps that were mentioned from this paper? And as you can see, we'll be greeted with an answer citation backed. And the best thing about this is if we see a sentence we like, such as this one, we can click on the citation and AnswerThis will bring us down to the exact page and lines where the citation was brought from. And just as we could do before, we can highlight pieces of text that we like and add it to our notebook so we can see it at a later date. Now, if we haven't got enough information from our papers yet, which we'll have lots of by this point, we can also make a citation map. So if we copy the DOI of one of these papers and then select add step and click on citation map, you can enter in your DOI, simply press your paper's origin, and you'll be greeted with a citation map like this, where you can see how all the papers interact with each other and connect. And if we just scroll on a little bit down, we'll also have a table like we had seen before, except at the right hand side, we see this metrics button. If we press this, we can sort by most cited papers,
most connected papers, and top contributing authors. So if we click by most cited papers, we can see that this paper here that's popped up has 47,362 citations. If we scroll on down, it is sorted by the amount of citations. Similarly, if we click on top contributing authors, we can see the papers with the main authors that exist within this research space. And just as we could do before, we can save these papers to our library, and if we want to create a citation map out of one of the papers that we see here, we can also click on Set as Origin, and it will be set as origin on this citation map, and it'll look like this. And say at this point, somehow, some way, you haven't found the papers that you need, no need to worry. On the Add Steps section, we can click on Search New Papers, and it'll bring us up to an interface like this. From here, we can enter in a prompt or a keyword for the papers that we're trying to find. We can also click on the Filter section and filter for minimum citations, journal quality, publication types, databases, and everything that we could do within our literature review to filter for papers within the search paper section as well. And when we submit search, it will immediately bring the papers in our space that we were looking for, and we can adjust those filters until we find the exact papers that we need. But I have no doubt by this point, AnswerThis has most definitely found the exact research paper that you need. The final thing that I love to do within anything that AnswerThis gives me is ask a follow-up question. It's the most powerful way to extract more information about the research question or topic that you're building on. For example, I can ask a question like, what are the limitations of AI models, and identify research gaps? I can then just click on search. And as you can see, just like that, we now have an entire comprehensive answer to the limitations and research gaps that we were asking for. And just like the literature review, if we highlight any of these sections that we find interesting, we can add this to Notebook and save it for a later date. And talking about Notebook, this is the next section that we're going to be diving into. We're just going to click on this Notebook option and open our default notebook, which has all the materials that we saved up to this point. And it's sort of like Google Docs, where we can bold text, we can make text heading 1, heading 2, we can italicize text. We can also share this to our teammates for them to review the notes that we've made. They can also see the research papers that we've saved in here as well. And additionally, we can export this as PDF, docx, Markdown, or LaTeX. And actually, from the literature review section, if we scroll on down to the bottom, we can do the exact same thing here as well, where we can export it to PDF and all these different formats. But back to the notebook, once we're happy with all the notes that we've taken from our research here, we can open the full notebook. From here, we can actually insert our entire literature review that we made earlier. And as you can see, the entire literature review was imported in the left-hand side, and we can see our citations here as well. If we click on the citations, we can see the entire abstract, the author, the DOI, and we can also view the publication from here as well if we wish. Additionally, just like the literature review, if we want to reformat this into a different citation style like APA, we can do that. The entire literature review will update accordingly. And on the right hand side, if we want to ask follow-up questions like finding research gaps or methodologies, we can also do that here as well. Looking back on the right hand side, if we highlight any pieces of text now, instead of having the save the notebook option, which obviously would make sense here, we can now see the ability to rephrase the text and elongate, which expands on the writing we have here. And if we wish, we can also do a custom prompt where we can ask it to keep on expanding on the writing that it has, change the tonality, and also add extra sources from here as well. For example, I can just simply say go deeper on this topic. AnswerThis will then show the suggested text. We can read through this, and as you can see, it's also added in extra citations here. And once we see that everything looks good, we can simply add the tick mark and add it right into there. After you've inserted the new writing, you can go along and keep on editing text. You also have the option up here to add images if you wish. You can also create new tables as well. And you also have all the typical Google Doc options that you'd normally see. Now back onto the right hand side, if we click on the analysis section, we have the option to check our writing for plagiarism or AI detection, and we can simply just click on analyze entire document, and it'll produce a dashboard like this where we're able to see the exact lines and matching sources which AnswerThis has detected as plagiarism, and then we can go in and fix each one piece by piece. Additionally, for the AI detection, we can also just click on Analyze Entire Document, and just like that, AnswerThis will show you all the sentences that were detected for AI, and we'll have to go in there and change it. Additionally, we can also go in, we can highlight pieces of text, we can then do AI detection or plagiarism for the selected text that we have. And in this custom section, we can also copy and paste different text that we may have for AI detection and plagiarism as well. Moving on in the right hand side, we also have our entire library here as well. So as you go through AnswerThis, you'll be adding your papers into here, and we can add them directly into the writing that we have on the left hand side by selecting our source, adding citation by clicking this button, and as you can see, it goes right into this section. And additionally, if we don't have the paper that we're looking for within our library, we can also head on over to the search papers section. We can use the filters that we had went through earlier, and we can also type in a prompt or some keywords to find that exact paper that we need to put into our writing. From here, once we're happy with a lot of the work that we've done, we might want a peer to come in, review our work, maybe add in some citations, and we can do that by pressing this share button here. Once we've done so, we can scroll on to the bottom, enter in the email address of the peer that you'd like to show your work to, simply send invitation, and they can then go in and add papers and edit the work just as you had been doing. And finally, once you're happy with your entire project, you can export it to PDF, DocX, Markdown, or LaTeX, and you can also go up here, press the three dots, and rename your project to what you need it to be. Now, all of this is great, and you may have been wondering, what is that on the left hand side? What are all these different tools? I want to show you some of the features that you may have not have seen from the sections before. Starting with the library. Here you'll be able to see all the papers that you may have added whilst going through literature reviews within AnswerThis. You can also add papers by uploading PDFs of them, or you can import your papers directly from Zotero or Mendeley libraries that you may have. On the left hand side, you'll see this plus button on the top right beside my library. If we click it, we can now make an entire new library for our project. So we can call it something like AI models. We can then describe the project, let's just say others for now, and then simply press create, and it'll bring us to a blank library where we can add our papers in here. Once we've added our papers in, we see those typical table options that we had seen before. We have the ability to change our citations into 2,600 plus styles. We can export this into CSV, BibTeX, and on the right hand side, we have the column section where we can add different columns like research gaps, methodologies, where AnswerThis will automatically extract the data from the research papers themselves in order to find things like research gaps. And if we want to create our own custom prompt to find maybe more specific data, we can also type this in here as well. And as you can see, AnswerThis has produced research gaps for every single one of these papers, which we can now go in, we can read them, and if we scroll to the top, we can export this into a CSV where we'll be able to see the research gaps as well as authors and all the different data that we have here as well. And we can export this into BibTeX as well as to our Zotero and Mendeley libraries. Just as we had seen in the other sections with tables, we can select multiple of these papers and use them to chat with them. We can also create a new table by pressing this Add Steps button, as well as bibliometric analysis. And if we scroll on to the top, we can also filter these papers by the minimum amount of citations that they've used. We can also sort by start date or end date, as well as the keywords that were used in the abstract. Additionally, when we've selected multiple papers that we find useful, we can also save this to our notebook. We can also move it between libraries by clicking Move Papers. We can then move it to one of the libraries that we want to move it to. We can say Chemistry here, press Confirm, and as you can see, the two papers have been moved. If we head on back to the left section, we can then click on AI Writer, and as you can see, there are all our notebook projects that we had, and if we click on this one, we'll be able to see the project that we were working on before and continue writing and drafting our papers from here. Additionally, we have search papers where you can enter in a prompt or a keyword for the papers that you're looking for, and then set filters such as minimum citations, the journal quality, publication types, and then press submit search to find the exact papers that you're looking for. Similarly, we also have citation maps, which we may have used for the add steps option inside of the canvas, where we can go to metrics, search for most cited papers, most connected papers, top contributing authors based on a paper that we extracted and put into here. Next, we have a section that we haven't seen yet, and that is diagrams. From here, we can simply type in a prompt and select the diagram that we want to create. There's many different styles here. We can make pie charts, mind maps, flowcharts. Let's start with flowcharts. If we scroll up to the top here, we can create a prompt. Here I've simply said create a simple flowchart for an input-output system in Python. And finally, we have the agent section. This is one of my favorites and underutilized in my opinion amongst researchers. If you scroll to the bottom of this page, you can see different tools such as the empathy tool, which is used for peer reviews. You can use the AI essay writer to create essays quicker. You can use the naturalizer to change the tonality, and so many different tools you can discover here. And if none of them fit your cup of tea, then you can also create your own agent by pressing this button here. From here, you can give it a name. In the next section, you can give it a description as well as a detailed description down here. I advise you make this look as nice as possible as it's going to be used on a landing page later. And if we go on to the next section, now you can create the prompt for the tool to use. As you can see, AnswerThis already has a pre-made prompt that works very well, but you can change it in order to get the exact output that you're looking for. If we head on over to the next section, we can now use different types of databases that our AI will use for its model. Here we can adjust for Semantic Scholar, OpenAlex, PubMed, ArcSieve. We can select all of them if we want, or just one of them if we want to be a little bit more specific. We can also add the internet to our databases. We can use all websites, just government websites, or just EDU websites if we wish. For now, we can turn that off. And we can also upload our own PDFs for the AI agent to be trained on exactly your data. If we press continue, our AI is ready to go, and all we need to do is press create AI tool, and it will go ahead and make an entire landing page plus your own agent that you can use for your given type of research. Finally, you have an invitation that you can send out to a team member. You can simply add a peer in here by entering their email and then click send invitation. Once you do that, you can press the next step. You'll be able to see your landing page. Here's an example one that I made. Press view tool, and then you'll be given your very own custom AI tool designed exactly for your research needs. Finally, at any time throughout AnswerThis, we can click on recent searches to find the different canvases and projects that we were working on, as well as this invite members option where we can go ahead, invite a team member, and if you invite 2 or more members and upgrade the pro, you'll also get a 20% discount. So I highly recommend that you take advantage of this, not just for the extra tools that you'll be able to use, but for that discount as well. And that's it. Now you have all the tools that you need to take your research from just a question or an idea to a fully publishable research paper that you can send out to a journal. Thank you so much for watching this, and please do let me know if you have any questions along this way. We love hearing your feedback and how you're using the tool, so I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and good luck with your research.